Howdy and welcome, kids, to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. It is January 27th.
How's it going for you this week, Michael?
Oh, man. It's been a time. It's been a time. In fact, I'm going to talk about it today. I'm not answering a question in astrology, but first, one or two little announcements. Radical Forgiveness started this past weekend, and I always allow the registration to go for the first couple of days after class. Then I close it down. I don't want people just popping in the middle. But if you're interested in a class on forgiveness, because I know I'm teaching what I need to teach because I'm mad as fucking hell right now. And I need a little forgiveness. So if you want to join that class, catch up with the video and the homework. And you can go to michaellennox.com for that. And while you're there, get a seat in my Venus retrograde webinar, which I'm doing next Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Venus is going retrograde. That's a big deal and a beautiful opportunity to rewire how you're approaching love and or finances. And so, again, another thing to check out at michaellennox.com. And now I'm going to talk about how fucking mad I am. Now,
There's so many different things. I'm curious as to, like, what's your point today? Because there's so much to be angry about.
Okay, America.
There we go.
It's about the United States of America. It's about the oligarchy that we are now fully, and we've always been an oligarchy. It's not like anything new. It was the railroad barons and the steel barons in previous centuries. You know, the government has always been beholden to the billionaires, and the illusion is that the government is the problem, but it's really the millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a relationship with the idea of being an activist that is a little negative from my family of origin. In fact, as I'm sitting in these couple of days where I feel something's happening inside of my body and my voice, there's like, we were laughing before, it's like holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity because something has changed within me. And I'm fucking angry and I need to speak about it. And I'm looking to find a way to incorporate enough of that anger into my voice as an astrologer to feel like I'm authentically expressing myself and not so much that I become some kind of an asshole doomsayer. But I have to start by just saying the reason why I haven't been more of an activist before is because I come from a family of very loud, very angry, New York Jews who used to scream at each other about politics all the time. And my mother was an activist. I went to marches. I marched in Washington against Vietnam when I was 5 years old, right? So I was raised to think that way and to see the world as a place to activate and make a better place. But it was so violent and chaotic in my family of origin. Both my sister and I sort of pushed that energy at arm's length. But it's in my DNA to get angry at things that seem not okay. Now, there's an astrological piece behind this. I'm not just taking the time because I have a podcast to yell. Right? There's a point to this. One point is personal, right? I feel like something is activating inside of me. And when I look at what's happening in the world and the United States, it doesn't surprise me that this might be happening inside me. Well, let me say it doesn't shock me, but it surprises me, or it surprises me but doesn't shock me. Maybe it's that way. Like, I'm not shocked that I have this because it's in my body to be angry, but I am surprised that it wants to come into my professional voice a little bit. And here's why astrologically. As we move through the TikTok ban experience of early January, I watched that experience activate people. I saw it on TikTok. I saw all of the people leaving TikTok and going to Red Note as a kind of protest, and I was one of them. I now have on Red Note
You're on
account. I'm putting
Xiaohongshu.
Red Robe Astrology onto Red Note every fucking morning. Yes, you bet your ass I am. And I boycotted Meta for a week while I was promoting a class and my Venus webinar. I took 1 week out of promoting on social media because I'm so fucking angry. It didn't matter to me if I lost students.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make astrologically is suddenly something that I said in my overview for the year about the intense energy between the three outer planets changing signs, bringing about devastating levels of sudden change that will be unstable and knock us on our asses. I am now starting to feel an even deeper hopeful/angry response when I think about the fact that that TikTok ban, which was emblematic of all of the bullshit that's happening out there. The government does not want to ban TikTok because of China or data or protecting
Right, of
American
course.
people when American companies are fucking our data right up the ass without lubrication.
Right.
So it's about controlling people who would otherwise organize. And when TikTok came back, they did all kinds of fucked up things like you couldn't go live. So you got 2 days of wild protesting out in the street during the inauguration. But the only live thing you could see on TikTok was the inauguration on fucking Fox. And
I
you
didn't know
couldn't go
that.
live yourself, which is literally like we'll keep the lives off for a couple of days while these protests are going so no one can freaking see them.
Yeah, I don't have TikTok, so this is so interesting to me.
I do have TikTok, and I use it to monitor the world.
Right.
Because I generally can stay in the world and not of it. And this TikTok ban just threw me straight into the of it. Partly because this summer's going to be wild astrologically. And the TikTok ban is sort of shot off for 75 days, which means in the middle of the spring, the negotiation about what's going to happen with TikTok will complete itself. But no matter what happens, it's going to be bad for America. It already is. Do you mean like nothing good can come of this as far as I can see, except the activation piece. So again, I don't know exactly what I'm doing here in this little moment. I'm wrapping it up because I've yelled too long. I do feel like something has changed and inside of me. And so I'm just going to be curious about that. I'm not going to do things differently. I'm going to, though, honor moments like this one when there feels like a need to talk about things that are happening in my country as an astrologer, not like a pop astrologer showing charts of moments. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's disgusting. But I can't keep quiet about how angry I am. And the next 2 years are going to be so important for the United States of America trying to rebirth itself. I want to be part of that. Not just privately in my own world, but with my platform on some level. And it just started with today being the day of like, a la Network, one of the best movies ever made about the future of the United States, where I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Network, because it, in the 70s, described what would happen to media, news, and television that would ruin the world. And here we are. I still believe in the resilience of human beings. I still believe in the age of Aquarius. I do believe we have a Gordian knot in the United States, which means we got to cut it with Alexander's sword. But I believe we can do that and create something new. And I'm just going to show up with everything I got to participate in a new way. And now we move into the astrology. Rant over. In fact, that rant sort of connects to the age of Aquarius, and Mercury is moving into Aquarius today. So right on time to be thinking about, talking about, and having our perceptions aligned with what the community needs. Of the 12 signs of the zodiac, Aquarius is the intuitive. And I separate the distinction of psychic and intuitive because Scorpio is the psychic of the zodiac. Pisces is the empath of the zodiac, but Aquarius is the intuitive. And so, what's intuition then? I define intuition as the capacity to synthesize and integrate information from information that's in the room that most people won't be able to see all of, right? So, the intuitive and then some of what the information that an intuitive experience can include is psychic information, but then that is incorporated in putting all the information in the room together to learn something new. So this is why Aquarius is, not why Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, but because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the great awakener, Mercury in this sign is in what's called the higher octave of the mind. All of the personal and outer planets have this relationship. With the heart, it's Venus and Neptune. With the body, it's Mars and Pluto. And with Mercury, it's Gemini, Virgo. And of course, Mercury, higher octave of the mind, is Uranus. Mercury's in his free and clear place right now, which means he is not retrograde or not going retrograde for another 2 months. And of course, Pluto is now in Aquarius. And so Mercury's first visit when he drops in, which happens Tuesday and Wednesday, is a conjunction with Pluto. So in some ways, the week starts out with an emphasis on intuition and a little bit of intensity in mind when mind connects with Pluto, the lord of the underworld. Today is the day we start paying attention to matters of the heart. Venus is going retrograde. My webinar is this weekend. So here's what you want to do. A, you want to get your seat in my Venus retrograde webinar on Sunday, where I talk about the whole cycle and help you navigate it with specifics and the handouts and the whole bit. Today is the beginning of what's called the direct shadow. There are 3 parts to every retrograde. We don't really pay attention to this with social and outer planets because their retrograde processes are too slow. But with the personal planets, it really counts that the first act is when the planet is covering the territory it's going to go over when the retrograde occurs. So right now, Venus is at 24 degrees of Pisces. And between now and March 1st, Venus will move to 10 degrees of Aries. That's important in terms of how to consider the value of this retrograde cycle, because Venus is going to be crossing over what's called the birth canal of the zodiac. Last degree of Pisces, 0 degree of Aries, is the most sensitive point in the zodiac because it's the alpha omega moment. It's when formlessness becomes form. So right there, a Venus retrograde can take your desires for love, relationship, intimacy, friendship, and financial security and really rewire the unconscious elements of that so that in the Aries I am energy allows whatever unconscious work this Venus retrograde will generate for us and turn it into moving through the world more powerfully as better givers and receivers of love. In fact, one of the juicy things about 2025 is the fact that so many planets will be crossing this sensitive point in the zodiac, the birth canal point, all at the same time. The retrograding Venus, Mercury will retrograde here and join Venus as they both cross this point while they are backward. Neptune and Saturn are crossing this year and next year 3 times by retrograde, right? So there's so much juicy stuff happening at that point, which I'll talk a lot about in this weekend's retrograde, because it's not just the Venus piece. It's where we're going next because it's the North Node.
And this is why you say like this year and next year is so much change.
Yes, because the outer planets are changing signs this summer, but then backtracking into where they are now similar to what, Pluto took 2 years to traverse between the 2 signs, similar to that. And then in 2026, they move back into the air and fire signs that they will be in the summer. So 2026 is like the hot summer of 25, but in earnest. In other words, 26 is a little rougher with lots of change and sudden shifts that we get a hint at when we come into this summer. And so I like to talk a lot in astrology about preparatory experiences.
Hmm.
Like I would anthropomorphize the planets by having Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, and Venus. That is responsibility, our spiritual connection, our minds and our hearts, all focused on what it means to go from the formlessness of Pisces into the creation of form with Aries, and do so gracefully with our spiritual connection in tow, mind and heart in alignment. So this is coming in the spring. And how to meet what's possible this year will depend largely on how well you navigate what Venus and her retrograde is going to be offering you. And if you're not going to get the webinar and track things as some people do, understand this. Starting today and for the rest of the month till March 1st, just pay attention to anything and everything that comes up in your love experiences, your intimacies, your friendships, and how you relate to your finances, because in March, Venus will turn around and that will start to get reworked a little bit. And don't worry, you stay close with my Red Robe Astrology videos and the podcast, and we'll carry you through all of it. But it starts today. Pay attention to matters of the heart. On Wednesday, in the wee hours here in the Pacific time zone, around 4:35 a.m., the sun and the moon will come together at 9 degrees of Aquarius. We finish out this lunar cycle that we are in, and we begin our next one. So remember, Aquarius is all about innovation, new ideas, breaking out of the routine and the boxes that you've been in. If we're going to create an age of Aquarius, and that process between the age of Pisces and its unconsciousness, and the demand of the age of Aquarius to sort of understand the value of the community and serve it, in order for that to happen, all of us have to wake up to who we are at a higher level, especially from the perspective of what's my unique gift that I offer the world. And this is sort of an important sort of two-sided idea. What's my unique gift is idea number one. That I can offer to the world is idea number two. Both Pluto and Mercury are in Aquarius, and they're close enough to the sun and the moon to be what we call conjunct. So they're all vibrating each other. What I love about Mercury being nearby the new moon is that a new moon is a time when we set intentions, and we do that with our mind. We do that with our perceptions. We do intention setting vis-a-vis Mercury. So Mercury near the sun and the moon, close enough to be conjunct in a new moon, puts not only our minds in the room to set intentions, but our higher octave of mind. So we're able to perceive in this new moon, again, not only just what's on the lower vibe of what serves me or what do I do best, but that the higher octave of mind notion of, how do I serve? And because Pluto's in the mix, it's about, again, I sort of focused on the rebirthing that we're in this year, that we are changing dramatically the world, maybe more so in the United States of America and other places where there is war. I'm not leaving those places out. This new moon says we look out at a world and a landscape that is radically transforming. It is dying to self in order to be reborn. And we want to make sure that we are setting our personal intentions connected to that idea, not separate from it. Aquarius is the dude who knew that something was missing and left the community to find it, only to bring it back to serve the community. And water is what he found. So that's the essence of this moment. Go on a hero's journey in this lunar cycle to see what it is you want to, create and serve the world with. If you know what that vision is, put it into this new moon intention setting moment. If you don't, say the prayer that I always offer out. It's like, I may not know how to serve in my conscious mind, but I know that there are energies bigger than that inside of me that are driving me towards service. Let me find those ideas now and help me embody them so that I might bring something contributory to the world and what it needs. There's not a lot of direct geometry with that 9-degree new moon, 9 degrees of Aquarius, but there's a beautiful trine from the new moon to Jupiter. That's chef's kiss beautiful, because Jupiter says we can have every expanded idea we can think of. Aquarius says I can think out of the box and do anything I want. And Pluto says I'm willing to change. I'm willing to die to self and be reborn enough so that I can have the bounty and the cash and the prizes that I desire. But don't forget to make sure that your desires for expansion include service, and then you will be rewarded well. The more I am of service, the more, well rewarded I am by my business and my career, because I serve. So a new moon trine Jupiter allows us to tap directly into any kind of expansion for what we desire to create for ourselves at a personal level. But with Mars retrograde, everything's a little deferred or delayed in terms of what we can expect in terms of changes that we're intending now actually showing up in our immediate environment, because Mars is retrograde, Venus is about to go retrograde. While they're retrograde, Mercury will go into his next one. So in some ways, this new moon kicks off not only this lunar cycle, but in some ways incorporates the idea that forward thrusts of energy now also have to incorporate that our bodies and movement choices, actions, aka Mars, our emotional body and our relationship to Venus, to intimacy and money, Venus, and Mercury, perceptions, are shifting us at the individual level over the next couple of months, such that when we get to the sort of middle of spring and all of those personal planet retrogrades are over, we are prepared by the retrogrades to have a greater connection to our mind, body, heart integration, so that when July comes and the shit hits the fan, we are more activated, we are more connected to our unique gifts and willing to sort of put them out there into the world to help serve the community. And why I'm particularly confident about that is that Mars is at 21 degrees of Cancer with this new moon, and that's trining Saturn, Venus, Neptune, and the North Node. That means that as we set intentions in this moment, Mars is over there hearing them. And he's saying to us, gotcha, heard ya, I'll get back to you in 3 months. Just keep following your unconscious path, and I can bring you more love, trine Venus, more responsibility, focus, and discipline, trine Saturn, deeper spiritual connection, trine Neptune. And all of this helping us move forward into the new Piscean North Node consciousness that we are in since January 11th. That's a beautiful sidebar of a capacity to embody all of those things I just described. But it also does tell a story that the forward moving intentions we set now might be a little delayed and deferred over the next couple of months. Don't think of that as a bad thing. Just think, I'm going through 3 months of inner, personal, individualized preparation so that by the time we get to the summer, I am more ready to meet the world and its, life on life's terms with more courage, conviction, and vision so that I can help birth this new consciousness that we're so desperately trying to bring to the new earth.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show.
Today we have a call-in dreamer. Thorn is calling from Los Angeles. Hey Thorn, what you dreaming?
Hi. Let's see. So this dream, like a lot of my dreams, is very cinematic. Like I'm like watching a movie more than experiencing it firsthand. So just FYI. But
Okay, good to
yeah.
know.
So I do come into
Is
it.
that like a style for you?
Yes, it's pretty
Okay.
common motif, yeah. But I do come in at the end. So
Okay, cool. Okay,
I know.
actually that's going to be interesting because you have a style that you then change.
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I do. This happen, and we'll get into it after the dream. But that happens often, where suddenly the POV becomes very clear. So in this one, it honestly would make a very fun sci-fi noir movie.
Love that.
We're looking at insider. So I transcribed this from a voice recording. I often do voice memos of my dreams, so it's a little disjointed, but I think we can do it. Insider trading and mob scams is where we're at. So there's a mob, and they're doing a coffin scam where they're selling coffins to people to do sea burials, but then they just dump the bodies before they push them into the sea and then reuse the caskets.
Oh,
great scam. So they're hiding the bodies inside of sea creatures, like inside of a whale tummy. That's verbatim, something I said into the recording.
Right.
Like a whale tummy or an octopus. And so people don't find them as easily. And then these like human bodies inside of the animals were turning into hybrids. And so it's like the human skeletons were like fusing into the sea creatures and becoming these like new creatures. And for some reason, some of these creatures were also part machine. And I quote, because of the metal they were in. I'm not sure what that meant, but noted. And these hybrids kind of began to try and implicate themselves into society. Or not implicate, but like infiltrate. That's the word. Infiltrate. And so apparently actor Michael Keaton was one of them. And so there was like a faction of people who were trying to stop the hybrids because they seemed to have nefarious intent. And someone was trying to kidnap and kill a different actor, Michael Razor, who is not a real person, but in the dream he was, because he was also one of these hybrids. And they kidnapped Keaton, and Keaton was like, no, I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy from Star Trek. I'm Batman. And the person who kidnapped him was like, that's okay. That's cool too. You'll do. And then there was the next like part that there was also a daytime host that was like a hybrid that the mob had gotten to. And the hybrids also, some of them looked like humans and some of them looked like really like screwed up skeleton like the horror movie version of that, like a Cronenberg thing. And here's where I come in. I had gone undercover to discover that this was happening, this like conspiracy of casket scam and sea creature hybrids. Because apparently the guy in charge of this, I guess the like head of the mob, was my father.
Oh my
there's some
fucking God.
there's some stuff to mine there. And he was trying, apparently, and this is kind of a shift in the dream right before I woke up. He was trying to do with the hybrids, like make a performance or a show. And so he was hiring a bunch of the actors who were hybrids in order to do this and make this kind of circus-y, more vaudeville, I think, was type of show. And then I woke up.
Okay. Dang. All right. So first, you're absolutely right. The father piece is the juicy juice. It reminds me of a moment when I did a dream petition about someone I was dating. Should I continue to date him? And at the end of the dream, in walks the man I'm married to, and it's my father. And I broke up with the man immediately.
Amazing.
But it does now. I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit here, because although I didn't know what dream we were working with, I never do. Zoe's in charge of that. I do know you.
Yes.
We know each other. In fact,
yes.
I know you through Zoe, and you and your partner are, you helped me take care of my doggy, my puppy, Penelope. So, because I know you, I have some information that I would have had to dig in and ask about, because I would have been deeply curious about why a father consciousness, why your father consciousness is in this dream that's all about beings that are not quite in the mainstream, something new, something hybrid. So I have to sort of out you here as someone who's queer and lives in a sort of lives a queer lifestyle and in a community that would be best described as queer. And so, do you see what I'm seeing in the dream? So what I'm seeing in the dream is that there's this deep exploration of things that are ultimately unconscious, right? Because we're in sea creature, right? So we're talking about stuff that's below the surface of consciousness. And what we're seeing happen in this dream is the generation of a hybrid consciousness that wants to infiltrate into society.
Wow.
That to me is about the need for the queerness of the human race to be incorporated into the age of Aquarius, because without queer consciousness leading the way, we will never have the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
And if I go a little deeper, the outrageous enmity towards the queer community from the current sort of culture is a fear response, and it's about freedom.
Yeah.
Queer people have had to wrestle with themselves mightily to come out on the other side loving themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And so isn't that on some level about finding the hybridness of you?
Yeah.
Say a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, like many queer people, and I'm also trans, non-binary, and I'm an actor. And like many of us who, for whatever reason, took our time coming out or had that
Mhm.
as a process. Many of us have tried, to go stealth, so to speak,
Yep.
or to kind of pay lip service to various mainstream ideals of beauty or standards, whatever, to find safety. As if, once you've crossed that line into queerness, there is any kind of safety in assimilation, which we know that there really isn't. But I definitely tried that for a long time, especially in the context of being an actor. I felt that
Got it. So you
yeah,
tried the assimilation in a
yeah,
very big way, and now
yeah,
you're at a
at
place
least
in your
physically.
development where your
Mm-hmm.
individuality and authenticity is more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely thought
So
I had to look a certain way to get cast.
got it. Let's look at the 2 Michaels. Help me understand just so that I'm, trying to
Yeah.
remember everything you said. There's Michael Keaton, and there's
Yes.
this other Michael Reiser. We're just gonna accept him as
Yes.
an actor in your dream. Was
Yes.
one more nefarious than the other? Like, what was the distinction between them in the dream state? Or were they
Mm-hmm.
similar?
I think they were pretty similar. I think actually they were kind of interchangeable was what ended up being the case in the dream. That one, yeah, they like got mixed up, and then when Michael Keaton was like, "Oh, I'm not that guy, I'm this other guy," they were like, "Oh, that works too. That's fine."
And do you have any association personally with Michael Keaton or his work or him as an actor that would make it why him?
I have had a funny aversion to him as a child that
Perfect.
I've
Okay.
recently kind of been getting over.
Perfect. So
Something about his
good. What
eyebrows.
now I'm gonna have to like Google images of Michael Keaton after this to look at his eyebrows.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
I think there's something interesting about the real actor, Michael
mm-hmm,
Keaton, and then and a sort of a imaginative actor, um, Michael Razor.
mm-hmm.
Raise, puns in
Mm,
dreams,
mhm,
raising something up somehow that, and then the Michael Keaton, who's the real actor, IRL in real life, and
mhm.
then Michael created by your imagination, to me is just like it gets more deeply personal
Yeah.
by there being 2 Michaels in the dream, one that's your imaginative Michael. So it's like saying looking at a figure of, like, assimilating in the world, Michael Keaton, whatever the reason
Mhm,
is for him to be there, and then the Michael Razor is the more personal to Thorn
mhm.
aspect of, and then I have to stop here and say the aspect of, which is something about I'm Batman.
Yeah,
Okay, let's look at there's so many different
yeah.
worlds. Let's look at that for a second. Star Trek is all about diversity.
Yes,
In fact, it was revelatory in the '60s that what
yes.
Gene Roddenberry created was, and it was all to present, social conflicts in, media fiction,
Mhm.
to reflect current, challenges. So to me, I'm from Star Trek. If we're talking about queer and fitting in
Yeah.
and assimilation and what's it gonna look like, that is Star Trek, but the dream is about I'm Batman. I think that puts you in the dream state into the superhero consciousness. No, 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 this dream's
Interesting.
not about fitting in. The dream is about I must, because now you show up in the dream, the
Yeah.
POV changes just as you declare I'm Batman. So
Uh-huh.
that becomes, for me, listening to the dream, a really important clue because it comes at the POV shift moment. So now the dream to me isn't about Star Trek and fitting into a diverse community that works. It's about fighting against the not that. It's
Mhm.
about being activated, which is an interesting podcast to be talking
Yeah.
about that considering what I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And once again,
Wow.
the dream is sort of fitting in.
Mhm.
Your I'm Batman message to me is about finding the part of you that's ready to continue fighting for your own existence And that the challenges you experience in the world as a queer person, non-binary, trans, bumping into those challenges, any personal difficulty that you would have of holding that is from your family of origin
Mm-hmm.
wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Dad trying to make a show of it might be a reflection of how dad is reflecting you. How is your relationship with your dad and your queerness?
Um, Generally positive. My father's no longer with us, but
Okay.
before he died, he um, I never officially came out to him, but he got it when I brought home my first girlfriend. And eventually, it took him a few,
It took a
like a
minute.
week to figure out what was
Okay.
happening. But he was always very supportive, and he was a big weirdo himself. He was like a hippie at Haight-Ashbury in 1969. So
Okay,
he,
got it,
yeah,
got it, got it. So there's then I'll sort of shift my interpretation of you telling me that it's your father. He's like trying to make a show of things, right? He's trying to
yeah,
make sense of this or present it, right? Or organize it in
yeah.
some way. Is that what he's doing in the
Something
dream?
like that. Yeah. And I wonder maybe if there's a sense of like trying to make the best of a situation without maybe like getting underneath it to uproot the shitty part, so to
Got
speak.
it. So
Yeah.
perhaps then your father's presence in the dream is reminding you of where in you already exists an ability to be sort of in, the community, but not like everybody
Hmm.
else in the way that your father was a bit unique or doing his own
Yeah.
thing. Um, Either way, the two things of I'm Batman and Daddy's here to me are the juice of the dream.
Yes. I see that.
And how are you, if you don't mind my asking? We are
Hmm.
in a new America.
Yeah.
What you feeling? What's
I
how you
mean,
how you
I think you're hitting the nail on the head in many ways in terms of my reaction at this point is not so much one of fear, but one of real determination and
Mm,
a kind of direct, I don't know, a recommitment to creating and maintaining the world that is for us, and
beautiful.
kind of
Beautiful.
fighting and tuning into our queer ancestors and remembering how they got us here and how
Yep.
we can then, be good
Yep.
ancestors.
Beautiful, and I do think it's a time when anybody
Yeah.
who is in participating in this, American experiment,
Hmm.
needs to step up into some level of activation or we're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing this dream when we're talking about this on this day, and just the beautiful way that we do have to all sort of come together and create
Hmm.
the world we want and stop dreaming the white man's patriarchal colonization dream because
Oh
that
yeah.
dream is over.
Oh yeah. And we'll make
So,
sure it is. We'll
yay,
make sure it
baby.
stays it
Yay!
over.
Have at it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.